Hello folks, this is Animaster 9000 and today I'm going to be reviewing the anime Doukyuusei. Uh, Doukyuusei, I do not happen to know if any of you happen to know this. It is actually an anime which is very unique for the fact that it is a shounen-ai. A shounen-ai, once again, if you weren't here for the last review, a shounen-ai basically is an anime about gay lovers together, only it doesn't contain as much nudity as a yaoi anime might contain. Really, Doukyuusei is unique for being a shounen only because it doesn't have the same types of themes that other shounais like Junjo Romantica, Sekaiichi Hatsukai. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing these correctly. For those who have seen those animes, this one, Doukyuusei, doesn't have the same types of appeal as those do, and I'll explain how. But first, let me just say the plot. The story revolves around two high school boys, Hikaru Kusakabe and Rihito Sojo. That was a really good Japanese voice. Should become a voice actor, huh? Really, Rihito and Hikaru meet inside of a classroom one day, and they both encounter each other to learn. For Rihito encounters Hikaru to learn how to sing, because they're both in chorus together. So, over time, as Hikaru gives Rihito more lessons on singing, what happens is that they both come closer and closer together. And eventually they start to love each other. Ultimately, what happens by the end of the anime is that they both fall in complete love with each other. And throughout the anime, it's only 1 hour. By the way, it's very short, which is kind of a problem. I'll explain how later on, but yeah. So yeah, all of this anime is about is two high school boys. I'll repeat names once again. Rihito and Hikaru and Rihito, who fall in love with each other ultimately. And yeah, that's really it. They're both men, by the way, in case you're wondering. I mean, you'd already know that since I said it's a shounen-ai, so yeah. So this anime is very unique for the shounen genre. It's not in the way that Yuri on Ice, for instance, is. I mean, Yuri on Ice went in a completely different direction from what you might expect here. Yuri on Ice used comedy to explain the story of a failed ice skating figure. Well, not necessarily failed, but just a struggling ice skating figure who has extremely low self-esteem and depression due to the fact that he doesn't believe he's a good skater, and then he ultimately meets another skater who's really good, and they both fall in love with each other, and it's supposed to be an extremely comedic anime. I've watched some of it, not all of it, but I just happen to know that Yuri on Ice is very good. It's the best anime of the season, from what many people have said. But Doukyuusei, I just wanted to go off topic for a moment to talk about it, and I'll now contrast Doukyuusei from Yuri on Ice. Doukyuusei is not the same thing as Yuri on Ice. It's not even close. I mean, for one, it doesn't have figure skating. It's not sport anime. It's just a regular, typical. I mean, I wouldn't even say it's a comedy or a drama. It's kind of like it's just a regular romance between two men, and it's kind of also slice of life at the same time. It's pretty fascinating. Ultimately, I guess let me just first start by talking about the story here. I kind of thought that the pacing of the anime could be somewhat inconsistent at times. I didn't like how, at times, I really felt detached from what I was watching overall. Like, in the middle, I felt somewhat detached, and that happened earlier on, before the middle itself, I didn't feel completely attached as I was supposed to. And this was because of the pacing. You don't feel the full impact of how they both fall in love with each other ultimately. Hikaru and Rihito. I keep on forgetting their names. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my laptop each time if you're wondering why I'm glancing over something else. Ultimately, the fact that this anime is only 1 hour kind of takes out the impact during the middle and earlier on. I mean, I guess that there's two different ways you can look at it. The positive side to the fact that this anime is short is that it really allows the simplicity of the entire story to shine. This story is very simple. It just talks about two men who fall in love with each other, two guys in high school. That's literally it. That's the entire plot, and that's it. And it's supposed to be an extremely simple anime. It is. I mean, for 1 hour, that pretty much helps the simplicity shine, as it kind of gives the creators less options to actually do something like Clannad-ish or Your Lie in April-ish or Ginger Romantica-ish, just to be more relevant to shounen-ai. So ultimately what the creators have to do, since they have less of these options, is that they just try and show a simple love story. That's it. That's the good thing about the fact that this anime is only 1 hour. But the bad thing, once again, is that the pacing can be inconsistent at times. You're gonna feel detached at times, unless you're just looking for the simple love and happiness from watching the anime. I mean, go ahead. I think you're going to definitely find that here, but otherwise, you're gonna have somewhat of a hard time watching it. I also felt like when I was watching the anime, it kind of felt, instead of being like, I know it's an hour long, I knew that all along, but instead of feeling as if it was an hour long, I felt like it was 3 hours. I mean, it felt so slow, the pacing. I mean, although the anime was only 1 hour, the pacing was, it just felt so slow, and it kind of made, it kind of, once again, while losing somewhat of the texture that could have been there, it also tends to, the length of this anime tends to also, like, I don't exactly know how to tell you this, but it more likely takes away that entire, it takes away that entire idea. That, it doesn't necessarily take away the entire idea, but it certainly picks and nicks from the full idea of the anime, which is love. I mean, I didn't really feel like this was too much of a love story. It was a good love story, but I didn't feel like it was too much because of the pacing of the entire thing. I accidentally forgot what I was about to say earlier, so I just took a few seconds to think about it. Yeah. Improv without a script, y'all. I guess, really, I think that the story, the shounen-ai aspect of it was pretty good. I liked how unique it was, for the fact that it didn't try to do the same thing that Ginger Romantica did. For those who haven't seen it, it doesn't try to have the same pervertedness that can be found in Ginger Romantica. That same sex appeal, in a way. That sounds weird, but it doesn't try to have the same BL stereotypes that you might find in an anime like Ginger Romantica or Sekaiichi Hatsukoi. It has something different. I mean, once again, it's very simple because of how short it is. So instead of trying to pull off the same gimmicks that are found in the other shonen-ai animes that people like to watch these days, it goes in a somewhat different direction. It just has a simplicity to it. It tries to develop the story between Hikaru and Rihito, but it also tries to make it seem more like, it tries to manipulate how different both characters are, and therefore makes the interactions between each of these characters so fascinating to watch. That's a really huge component of this anime, And you don't see that in other types of shounen-ais. But here, that was pretty huge for the story plot. That's how the entire thing moved forward because of the interactions between both characters. And these were very fascinating, these interactions, because of how different they both were. I'll explain how different they were in the character section, but really, I just had to tell you, it was a very fascinating thing to watch both them like communicate with each other. You might either laugh at times, you might just feel somewhat you might feel somewhat touched, as in like heartfelt touched and stuff like that, and other times you'll just relax while watching the anime. That's the good thing about the storyline. It's so simple because of the interaction, because it relies mainly upon the interactions of both these characters, that really you're never going to really feel sad, but you're going to feel some emotions either way, like from happy to somewhat heartfelt. So that's the good thing about the shounen-ai aspect of the show. I think slice of life was also put under quite somewhat, because we saw both characters grow up. We saw both them develop out of the nest we saw them in at first. They both were, at first, really, they're like cookie cutter types of stereotypes they might see in other animes, but then you see them grow as they interact with each other. You see them branch out of their horizons. That's a very silly phrase, but it's still true. You see them grow out of their own personalities and turn into different people as the anime goes. And that's a very good thing about the slice of life aspect of this anime. We see how each of these characters deal with their own lives. And that's pretty fascinating, alongside the romance they both share. So, for the characters, I guess what I'd have to say is, once again, I'll continue by telling you, I'll reiterate what I said earlier. Rihito is he's like a book smart type of character. He's the type of guy who you'd find at school reading a book or something like that. He's this intellectual, let's just say nerd. At the beginning, he is a cookie cutter personality, as he is supposed to resemble a nerd. And it sounds so informal for me saying nerd, but why not? Hikaru is a very set back person. He's in a band, and ultimately he is very chilled most of the time. He cares about life, but he doesn't really have so much of the dramatics towards reacting to each event that takes place in his life. He just deals with them very calmly. Like, he's very relaxed all the time. He's the type of guy who never really raises his voice against anyone. And he is himself a cookie cutter personality. I think he's pretty average at school. So yeah, I mean, he's the cool type of guy, let's just say that. I think the characters, I really liked the characters for this story, because the fact that both Rihito and Hikaru were so different from each other really made their interactions so fascinating, because they're able to see two polar opposite characters communicate with each other and eventually grow. We're able to see them experience emotions that a regular human being would, and that's the thing about anime. It's supposed to make the characters look more human, as any type of art should. People have to look human. They have to look more and more human throughout the series, because at the end of the day, they're supposed to be like us. That's the entire thing about it, and this anime did that perfectly. I think that this anime, what we're able to find by the end is that Rihito and Hikaru are together, and we're able to see that they're somewhat different, or actually very different from what we find at the beginning. They both grow through the obstacles that they face in high school, and that's pretty fascinating how we see them branch out at the end from their, well, not necessarily like, but you just look at the teacher as a very good catalyst for the story in a way. During the moments he has screen time, he is a good catalyst for moving the story forward, because his comic relief, his overall idea of teenage life, the teacher's overall idea of teenage life, and how teenagers really tend to act, is very fascinating to listen to in reality, because it's not only comedic, but it's also somewhat insightful, and that's pretty good. You're able to find somewhat insight upon growing up from the teacher. That was a pretty good role that he played, therefore. So I guess overall I'd have to give, I'd also say, I guess overall, oh, I forgot to give the rating for the story, by the way. Overall, the story, I would give it, 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 is pretty good. I give the characters why not? Well, yeah, why not? 10 out of 10. Why not? I'm just, I don't know if I'm exactly lenient by giving the characters for a story 10 out of 10, but hey, I might as well be nice, right? The characters in the story were very good, though, so why not give it 10 out of 10? Art style. Okay, this is very fascinating. This was an extremely fascinating part of the anime. Let me show you exactly how the characters from this story looked. This is actually very fascinating to see how they looked, really. Sorry, I'm recording on phone, so this is somewhat unnatural, but yeah, that's how the characters inside the story looked. See? That's the thing. The story, like the character design, as you might have just saw, was very simple. The art style was extremely simple. I'll just show you a pic once again. Yeah, you're able to see that the art style is extremely simple. The characters look very, very simple themselves. There isn't too much. There's once again that theme of simplicity inside the art style that's been mentioned. I mentioned that earlier in the story aspect for this review, and I believe that this really is good. It's really good that we're able to see that the art's so simple for these characters, because it really it doesn't take away from the substance of the story. It just lets the story continue, and it's really creative at the same time. Not only does it let the story continue, but it really shows the different personalities of the characters, and it kind of makes it look pretty good to see both of them interact with each other as the story goes on. Really, if you look at some sequences from the story, which I'm not going to show you right now, because my policy for a review like this is that I'm not really going to show like videos from an anime, because that's just spoiling one itsy bitsy piece of the anime. Even if it's very small and minor, I'm still not going to show you video from any anime that I ever review, just so you're aware. To get back on topic, ultimately, I kind of think that the art really made it fascinating to see both these characters, like, just look at each other. And one simple sequence, it made it so fascinating to just see both the characters look at each other, because the art made both the characters look like polar opposites just by itself. We don't even need, like, an actual, like, we don't even need hints at the fact that, for instance, Hikaru right here is the cool guy, and, obviously, Rihito right here is the nerd. We don't need any hints to find that out, and that's the good thing about art for this anime. It makes the character designs look so simplistic and like so artsy. Artsy. I mean, it makes the character designs look so simplistic, and at the same time, it makes it seem so natural for us to look at the characters interact with one another. That's beautiful, in my opinion. If you're able to find a story which has beautiful art, just from how simple the art is, I almost certainly can tell you that it's worth watching that story. I mean, I'm talking about Natsume Yojincho here. Space Brothers, if anyone's ever seen that. Yeah, the art here is very simple and it's good. I also thought that the background art itself was very simple. See? The background was very simple, and it kind of, that didn't really play too much of a role in the story, but once again, it looks very good just from the simplicity of it, which is hard to find in an anime which wants to make its art look simple. I mean, everything has to have some beauty derived from somewhere in terms of anime. The rest, art has to have beauty from somewhere, and here, the beauty for the art in this anime comes from the simplicity, whether it's the background, the characters, and nevertheless the background characters. The background characters looked very simple. They looked very simply designed. I mean, if you ever seen Ping Pong the animation or Tatami Galaxy, well, I'd say Ping Pong the animation's more of a better connect here. I can make a better connection between this anime's art and Ping Pong the animation's art. But if you've ever seen that anime, Ping Pong the animation, you might understand what I'm referring to when I say that the art looks so simple. I mean, it's good to make the art look simple all around, whether it's the background characters, background design, or even the main characters themselves. Nevertheless, all of those things. It's good to make the art look simple for all of those things, because it allows the viewer to pay more attention to the substance of the story, much rather than analyze the art. So I think here it really did a good job at forcing the viewer to pay attention to the substance of the story. It really made it seem so like harmonious to watch. Harmonious to watch each character interact with one another. The art, because of how simple it was. Sorry. So, yeah, I think that everything looked simple, and that was good. Because it made the viewer focus more on the substance of the story, focus more on the storyline of the entire anime. And that's always good, in this case, I guess. In this case, that would always be a good thing, to make the art look simple so the viewer can focus on the entire substance of the story. So, yeah, I'm just reiterating that once again for those who might have, I don't know, not understood what I said earlier. Yeah, awkward awkward moment. So I give the art for this anime, I guess I'll give the art for this anime, why not? I'm very lenient today, 10 out of 10. I'll give the art for this anime 10 out of 10, why not? Sound, there's not too much to say about the sound. I guess that the voice actors did a phenomenal job at sounding like how their characters are supposed to sound. They really gave the characters a life for their own personalities, the voice actors. And that obviously is the objective here. That's always the objective for any anime, for the voice actor to really give light to the character's personality. So that was good. Yeah. So the voice acting was great. What else is there for sound? Oh, ending's very good. The soundtrack is very good, and the ending's also good. I mean, like, it mostly. The soundtrack is very simple. The music sounds very simple, but it's good enough to the scenes look make the scenes move forward a notch, like make the story progress. The music's good enough for that purpose, and not only that, but I like the ending song for this anime. You should really listen to it. I actually want to find it was a pop kind of song, very country, mixed between pop and country. I guess it's more country than pop. The ending song, so it's good. So yeah, thank you. I guess I'd give the music for this anime a 10 out of 10. Overall, I'd give this anime a 9 out of 10. So yeah, watch Doukyuusei. Very unconventional anime for sure.